Oh, yeah, okay. All right, thank you, everyone, for coming today. This is the Historic Preservation Commission meeting for Princeton, Monday, April 7th, 2025. Pursuant to Section 13 of the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of the time and place of this meeting was given by posting prominently on the official bulletin board in the municipal complex, 400 Witherspoon Street, a schedule of the regular meetings of the Princeton Historic Preservation Commission for the year 2025, which posting is to be maintained throughout the year, and by transmitting a copy of such schedule to the Princeton Packet, Town Topics, Trenton Times, and Comcast Cable of New Jersey, and by filing a copy with the clerk of Princeton, New Jersey. Elizabeth, do you want to take the roll?
Yes. Ms. Satterfield?
Here.
Mr. Shatskin?
Here.
Ms. Howard?
Here.
Mr. Shore?
Present.
Mr. Endersby?
I'm here too.
Ms. Friedman?
Here.
Chairperson Capizzoli?
Here. Thank you, everyone, for coming today. Elizabeth, do you have any announcements?
I don't.
Okay. So I guess I just wanted to say that we changed our meeting date, so this is our only meeting for April. We're not going to have another meeting in a couple weeks or something. We have two sets of minutes, May 13th and May 14th. Shirley, Roger, Charlotte, David, and Elric are all eligible to vote on the minutes. Does anyone have any changes or corrections? Elric? Right, on the 13th. Yeah.
The Jugtown its name, and the other was a stone quarry from which a lot of the stone and the foundation was taken. So I wanted to make that clear. It talks about a gourmet shop. It actually was called the Gourmet Shop for local residents. And then later on, it says something about the soldier course. That wasn't what I was talking about at the time. I was talking about the glazed headers, which appear every fifth course on the two gables, which distinguish it as one of these houses with decorative brickwork, which are prevalent in South Jersey, but not here. And those are my two comments.
Okay, thank you. And those pertain to the 13th, because I remember that was the date that you gave your talk.
Yes, it was the first of the 2 days.
All right. Any other changes to either the 13th or the 14th?
Julie, I don't know which ones are which because I read them online and I made my notes on a little piece of paper. But on page 7 of one of the minutes, it's a section where Christine Lewandowski is making a comment, and it's just little stuff. It's we have the word registry when it really should be register.
Okay.
That's all something we all know. And then later on, Don Denny talks about the historical ordinance. Is that the historic preservation ordinance?
I think that's what he was talking about.
Get that cleaned up. And then under Quaker Road, I guess on another section of the minutes, page 2, demolition and reconstruction, third line under Christine, it says, I think it's supposed to be a dimension or something about the wagon house. It just has the letter M. And I don't know what that referenced to. And if I had the minutes in front of me, I could do that. So I don't know if you want to just have me get back to somebody on that, or...
You can have a markup and send it to Ian, either a hard copy or electronic.
Okay, I'll
Okay.
give it to him. Anyway, that's all I had. Everything else looked great.
Okay. Do you think we could still vote on it, Elizabeth?
I do. I think that David has touched on those, but he'll give more specific comments to Ian, so he'll make sure he has it in the right section.
Okay. Any other changes, comments? If not, would someone like to move the minutes for the 13th and the 14th?
So moved.
Okay, thanks, David. Second?
Second.
Thanks, Roger. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you so much. We're going to move on to our applications. Our first one is the Historical Society of Princeton, 354 Quaker Road, the wagon shed barn demolition and reconstruction. Anyway, I know Elizabeth did send out a report, and I'll give her a chance to summarize that if she'd like to.
So the Historical Society of Princeton has filed an application for an administrative waiver and historic preservation plan review to demolish and reconstruct the existing lean-to of the wagon shed barn and replace the barn foundation, roof framing, and windows. This structure is contained within the property identified on the Princeton tax map as Block 100201, Lot 11 in the RHFW sub-area F2 zone. The property is also identified with the address of 354 Quaker Road, containing approximately 6 acres, and is further known as the Updike Farmstead. The site is situated on the south side of Quaker Road between Mercer Street, also known as Princeton Pike, and Province Line Road. Neighboring properties are institutional in ownership. The property is located in the local, state, and nationally registered historic districts. It is classified as Type 1 Historic District in the Princeton Ordinance, which is subject to preservation plan review for any proposed work visible from anywhere within the Type 1 district or from the public right-of-way, including any new or changes of surface coloring. I think that everyone here, we've had a lot of applications within the Princeton battlefield, so I'm not going to go over the history of that or the Kings Highway, but I will go down to the project on the demolition and reconstruction of the lean-to and the other improvements to the wagon shed barn. So the applicant has actually been discussing the proposed demolition of the lean-to for a while. This was one the other Izzy was a director of the Historical Society, so it has been a conversation, but obviously they have a lot of other sequencing of work on the project, so they take it as they feel needs to be done. Unfortunately, there was an urgency on this application. The applicant did submit, however, they found that there was a structural stability problem as the ground started to thaw. And in my report, there's an attachment from their structural engineer who talks about going to the site and stabilizing, and I know Ms. Breginger can talk to that about how they stabilize it from the interior, and that it is pretty unsafe, so that's why we're looking at this application as an emergency review. The applicant has received administrative approval for roof shingle replacements on January 21st, 2022 to replace the roofing material on 4 of the outbuildings, the wagon shed, the garage, potting shed, and the storage shed. And they had used a specific type of cut diamond-shaped shingle in antique black, and it was approved for all of them. Unfortunately, the wagon shed roofing was not replaced within the 24-month requirement of approval. Therefore, they are coming back and asking for that approval again, since it had expired. We are under this understanding that the applicant is requesting the same type of shingle that they had originally been approved for. So the demolition of the lean-to and the reconstruction of the new lean-to is going to be at the same location, of the same size and height to match what was existing. The new foundation will have an exterior facing stone veneer and a black color asphalt rolled roofing material. The wagon barn will have a new framed gable roof to match the existing roof also, and the ridge will not exceed what is existing today. The diamond-shaped asphalt shingles that we talk about is where that material would be applied. In addition, the existing second floor windows were replaced with new wood windows which will match the size, shape, type, and mullion pattern as exists. All new foundations will be constructed of masonry with exterior stone veneer, and they'll be utilizing salvaged rubble stone to the extent feasible. The siding and trim is also proposed to be replaced, and again, where salvaged siding and trim boards are available, they'll be reused. Otherwise, they'll be replaced with new thermally modified poplar, again, matching existing siding and trim size and profiles. So as part of the demolition and reconstruction, there are 6 existing trees that are required to be removed. One is a multi-trunk, 3-trunk cherry tree and a walnut, which is encroaching into the lean-to. So that has to come out. In addition, there are 2 other cherry trees which are in the close proximity, but also they are asking to be removed. The land use engineer, Mr. Weissman, had talked with the arborist, and he concurred that they could be removed, and I believe there were 2 of them that were substandard sizes, so there was no compensation required. So, as the commission knows, we have the preservation obligation to be reviewed according to the preservation plan application and the historic structures, and those standards are set out within the report. And there are just 3 questions that is provided in the report, or comments. Actually, they're in my search, and it was very quick, but I could not find anything within the Sanborn maps, which is usually a go-to for me. They didn't go out to Quaker Road. It actually stopped on the north side, or right at the street. So it didn't go down south on Quaker Road at all. So there was no mapping information on those properties. And I know that the applicant had also said in her applications that she had done research in who else but the Historical Society would have so much information that they were not able to find anything, because they were actually looking to find what the age of the lean-to was, when it was constructed, to give it some type of reference. One of the questions I have for the applicant is the wagon shed proposed to be painted? I might have missed it on the plan, but I didn't see it, or was it just going to be natural? The applicant is also asked if the wagon shed barn is the only outbuilding that did not receive that new roof shingles that was approved. And if it wasn't, did you want to include that as part of that application, to include the other outbuilding? This was the only one that was outstanding. Okay, and that's all I have. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to the applicant.
All right, fantastic. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Anthony Todaro. I'm an attorney with the law firm Fakery, Drinker, Biddle, and Reith, and representing Historical Society of Princeton. So I don't want to reiterate a lot of what was just mentioned in Historic Preservation Officer's report. We agree with all those items, so I'll just try to keep it brief and honestly limited to the housekeeping questions. The one item I just wanted to confirm in the beginning is that since obviously this public meeting, but also there was a demolition component, so I just wanted to confirm that our notice and publication requirements were satisfied. So I didn't think there was any issue, but I just wanted to confirm it before I
Thank you.
kept going.
And Lisa, did you want to swear?
Is his mic on? Is your mic on?
Yes.
Can't hear you.
Oh, how about that?
Okay.
Is that better?
That's better.
Great,
Thanks.
thank you.
There were no issues with the publication.
Okay.
Thank you.
And we should, do you mind if we swear in any witnesses you're going to?
Sure, I'll run through them. So because we're so excited for this project, it's a worthwhile opportunity. It's been a long time coming. And so our whole team is here tonight. So what I want to do is just start off with Leanne Hunter from the applicant, just to give the board an understanding and some backstory as to what the applicant's all about, provide the mission, and how it kind of dovetails into this specific project.
Should,
Do you want to swear in all of our witnesses at the same time?
That's what I was just going to say. If anyone who's going to be giving testimony, if you could raise your right hand, and we'll just do it all at the same time, so we don't have to repeat ourselves. Okay. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes. Okay.
Thank you, Anthony. I'm actually Leanne Hunter, I'm a staff member. I'm the private events manager at Historical Society of Princeton. Been there for just over 7 years. I've worked very closely with the folks at Baxter and with Ronnie over, well, quite a while now on the Wagon Shed project. And I just wanted to start by giving you a little background about our mission. As you all know, Princeton has a fascinating history, and our mission is to develop programs and collections that share that history with local and international visitors and develop a passion for history and appreciation for the past, especially in children in our community. HSP purchased Updike Farmstead in 2004 and have been responsible stewards of the historic property. It contains a large barn and a farmhouse, as well as 5 outbuildings, one of which is the oldest building on our 6-acre property, the Wagon Shed. Parts of the Wagon Shed date back to 1720 and would have been standing during the Revolutionary War. It has always been our intention to restore the Wagon Shed. When we re-roofed 3 of the outbuildings in 2022, we ordered extra roofing shingles for the Wagon Shed. Unfortunately, we learned that we could not simply re-roof the shed, and the damage to the Wagon Shed was more extensive than we had originally thought. The entire building had to be reinforced in order to restore the structural integrity. As a nonprofit, we simply did not have the revenue to do this immediately. In the process of looking into grants and fundraising projects, we were approached by a very generous donor who agreed to fund this project. We hope that we can continue to tell the rich story of Updike Farmstead through the self-guided signage on our property, especially the historic significance of the Wagon Shed, which may have served as a landmark when Washington marched his Continental troops past the farmstead to the Battle of Princeton. Thank you.
Great. No, thank you. And then what I'll just confirm real quick is that, so there was a prior application, and in connection with that prior application, the other buildings, the roofing materials were already completed, or the installation, I should say, for the new roofing. We even have the shingles, quite frankly, for the Wagon Shed barn. It's just because of the extent of the improvements that need to be made. Roofing wasn't done. Quite frankly, we even have the same samples that we used at the prior application. So they're going to be obviously consistent, same exact ones. And so pending, of course, approval, we'll be able to actually effectuate the roofing as part of this project. And so absent any other questions from to the Ms. Hunter specifically, I'll turn it over to our architect to run through our plans real quick.
All right, thank you.
If you could just give the board. Any questions for Lynn? I don't think so, no. So if you could just give the board the benefit of your qualifications, just introduce yourself.
Veronica Breitenzer, architect licensed in New Jersey, been practicing my own practice for 33 years, testified in front of this group, I think, before, on zoning and planning, and worked primarily in Princeton. So. And as far as historic, work at Historic Morven, I've done 18 separate projects there over the years, as well as I did the big Updike Farm barn that we turned into what we call an assembly use space. And prior to that, I did the windmill and the little pump house building there as well. So.
And did you prepare the plans in connection with this application?
Yes, I did.
Would you be able to discuss those, or run through those plans with the board?
Yes. We will start with the photos. So, first photo. Just in context here, I think you're all familiar with it, but the green area surrounded by all the brown fields is the Historical Society of Princeton. And then as we move into it, basically north is the road, give or take. It's kind of skewed at an angle, but we're calling the road north just for clarity. Next. So here's the Wagon Shed barn. It's a 2-story frame barn with a rubble stone foundation with a lot of repairs to that foundation. Drop leaf siding. You can barely see it, but it has that diamond asphalt shingle shape, which is why we selected the other shingle, which was as close as we could possibly get after a big search. So this is looking from the street at the building. This is what we call the front, facing east. The door on the right actually goes to a stair that leads up to the second floor. the smaller not building, but the extension on the left side, which is one story, is a corn crib. And then the other doors lead into the main barn, as well as a door up on the second floor. This is the view of the corn crib, south elevation. The part, sadly, there on the left is what is left of the lean-to, which has collapsed. It was a single-story, low-sloped roof. Basically, this side was open, so you could, I guess, drive in, store materials. The other sides were closed with the drop-leaf siding. Just another closer picture of the shape of the building now. You can see the shingles are failing also on the roof. More close up, you can also see here how the lean-to is twisted in. The barn has also started to twist out. The foundation has started to move in. So we're having a multiple problems here. Next. And then some context coming from the parking lot, looking at the building. Coming from the main barn, this is the larger corn crib, and then you see the wagon shed in the distance. Thanks. This is looking from the wagon shed. What else do you see? You see the other outbuildings, the ones that did receive the diamond shingle roof, the main house, the main barn, and the corn crib again. Looking on this, there's a raised bed garden behind the barn, and then looking out into the fields, which are owned by the Institute for Advanced Study, but are still farmed. And then this is a view from the street looking at the building, and you can sort of see it back there behind the, I guess that's a spruce tree. And then drawings. So this is a diagram, site plans, just to show the buildings on the property. The buildings are tan, pavement is gray, and the building in the upper right corner with the notes, that's the location of the wagon shed barn, the corn crib. The dark brown portion is the lean-to, which is proposed to be removed. It's approximately 46 feet away from the property line, so it does comply with zoning as it stands and as it will stand, because we're putting it back exactly in the same spot. A more detailed view of the barn, I don't know if you can zoom in, the trees that are talked about to be removed are directly behind the wagon shed lean-to. Probably hard to see, but they're back there, and I did meet Taylor out there and we went over that. Next. So these are the plans for what we propose to do. This is the demolition removal plans. You can see upper left, we are removing the foundation in its entirety. It's rubble stone. The lean-to is block on the top, but if you dig a hole, it's rubble stone underneath. So it's a mixed foundation. There's a lot of repairs to it with cinder block in and out, mortar that's been there, taken away, stones are falling out, and as I said, it's a bit twisted on itself. It's starting to lean pretty badly. So we're proposing a new foundation with a veneer. We're also removing the roof all the way down to the framing. You might have noticed in the pictures, the building kind of sways like this. It's beyond the point of being able to repair that, and also to get it to meet code loading. Go ahead. These are the removal elevations. The things that are dashed in are what we propose to take down.
Right. Is it on?
Yeah, it's on.
Okay.
Okay, so these are the removal elevations. Again, you can see the foundations, the corn crib, the windows will be removed and replaced exactly as they were. We'll be milling them in wood, Same size, same grid, same everything. Next. These are the proposed drawings. You can see the upper left is the foundation plan, which is concrete block with a footing underneath, down 3 feet, with a stone veneer on the outside. Part of the reason for this type of foundation is we don't know what the future of this building is. Right now, the Historical Society believes they will continue its use of just some simple storage. I think they have some shingles in there and a few other things. So initially, it would be simple storage. But in the future, they do have, hopes that this building may be something else. And we don't want to limit ourselves to what that could possibly be. One of the things that was talked about was an interpretive center for a possible trolley car. Long way off, lots of ideas, but again, we want to make a building that has a safe foundation, meets code, and will be here a long time. Looking at the building again, you can see the new roof with the diamond-shaped shingles. You can see the windows, as we discussed, will be custom made to match exactly what was there. The corn crib, the lean-to, we did measure all the members that are there, putting back the same size pieces except for the roof, which did not meet code. So we're using slightly stronger material for the roof rafters. However, the height of this will not change, the size will not change. So we'll be going back basically as it was. The same applies for, go ahead, just put one. So here's a section through. The new roof framing for the barn will be conventional framing. So it will be a parallamp ridge, conventional 2x material for the rafters. Same on the corn crib, that will be conventionally framed roof as well. And there you can see on the right side details of the foundation showing concrete footing, concrete block, the stone facing. The piece with the X is a plate. The wood plate is basically deteriorated and rotted. That will also be replaced. Anywhere where we can salvage things, we will. If we can salvage part of the plate, we will. If we can salvage pieces of siding, we will. If we can salvage rubber stone to be used as the veneer, we will. But a lot of the building is in pretty rough shape at this point. One of the new materials we propose to use is what's called the thermally modified poplar, which is this, which I can pass around. It's a material that's been treated through flame. What that does is it takes away all the moisture, and then this will now be a piece of wood that's not going to rot. The piece in the corner was actually what was there. So you can see, we're matching the profile exactly. And the barn is proposed to be painted. The color would be white. And the interior currently is just dirt. We're proposing to dig down a bit and put gravel there, so at least they have something of a floor. And again, for future, that would probably become a concrete slab, similar to what we did in the other barn, if and when they decide to continue with something else as far as the use. I think that's it. Any
All right,
questions?
thanks, I'll open it up. Elric, you have any questions?
This is a tough one for me, because I like everybody who's involved in this project, but I don't like the project at all. Let me just give you a little back. First of all, it's not a barn. A barn has to have a threshing floor. Barns traditionally have a threshing floor. They have a space for animals and a hay loft. This building was not intended to have any of those three. It is a wagon house crib. And I hunted up drawings I did 20 years ago, about the time that the society bought the building, bought the farm. I think that whoever took a look at this building missed a lot of its history, and I wanted to tell you a bit about that. This originally was a 24 by 24 foot building. with 2 cribs, one which was partially under the stairs going up to the loft to the north, and one to the south. The threshing, the wagon space in the middle was narrower, and eventually somebody determined that that it was too narrow for the vehicles that were being stored there, and so they added the crib to the south. If you were to look up at the floor joists from the original building, you'd see mortise holes defining where the second crib was originally located. And if you look on in Bent C, you'll see how the studding is still there, which defines the depth of that feature. This is a remarkable building. I agree with the fact that this is the oldest of the outbuildings on the farm. I said it then, a date of about 1800. I think that's a lot closer. I don't really see any evidence. I know that the Historical Society had dendrochronology done on the barn. I had suggested about 1890, I think it's 1895, something like that. The straw barn, the dairy wing, is by far the older of the 2 sections of that barn. Wagon house crib. I've measured at least 100, so I know them pretty well. This is an English version. If it was Dutch, you would have the framing on the interior would be considerably different. But it does have some remarkable features which I have not seen elsewhere. One is if you look at the section for bent Y, the side bent for side Y, and the section where the existing crib is, and the stairs, it has this lovely curve that is a grace feature underneath the stairs. That's quite distinguishing. But there's another feature which is rare, and I don't expect anybody to notice this, but if you become accustomed to look at barns and outbuildings, you'll see that very often at the top of the posts, at about 2 feet below the plate level, there's a hole which has nothing to do with the framing, and it is a raising hole. And one of the timber framers in the Timber Framers Guild some years ago gave a talk on 11 or 12 different possibilities, because nobody's around who really use those holes. Initially, it's been determined that there would have been a larger size peg, but it would extend almost 2 feet beyond the posts into which it was riven. That could be useful in the raising for the various lines which help to advance the structure from horizontal to vertical. Also, though, because these holes are about 2 feet below the plate, it seems that they could have put scaffolding boards along those, and to hold the scaffolding boards from slipping off, in some cases, the rare cases, there will be a vertical peg driven into the other peg. That would keep the board from slipping off. It could also help if you had ropes attached to it in place. I've only seen 3 examples in New Jersey, and Alex and I have been through something over 2,000 barns and probably an equal number of outbuildings. 2 are Dutch barns up in Somerset County. This is the 3rd. And on the 2nd floor at the top of the stairs, you'll actually see one of those pegs in its original position, which is really quite a lovely feature. I would encourage the notion that you should do some dendo on it. I doubt that it was, I'd love to think it was there the day when, January 3rd, 1777. I'm doubtful of that. There are plenty of hewn timbers in the building. The spacing of the rafters, as wide as they are, is an early feature. However, first of all, I have to question preserving that lean-to. I think of all the structures on the farm, it's the least contributing to the history of the farm, even over the full scope of maybe 200 years. And the very slight angle of the lean-to roof is such that I think it's, it's certainly not earlier than 20th century, and I'd say it's somewhere fairly deep into the 20th century. I just don't see the usefulness of preserving it and sinking any money into that could be better served on preserving some of the original features in this structure. The building is small. 24 by 24 is a pretty standard size for a medium-sized farm. The lean-to extends it by another 4 feet, the subsequent lean-to for the existing south side crib. A lot of these wagon houses would have a purlin system which would reinforce the roof, and we've seen a lot. We moved one from Hunterdon County down to opposite David's place on 206 a few years ago. This does not have that, but it does have features which help to reinforce the frame and prevent the splaying of the posts, which could potentially be a significant structural defect. There are down braces, and they're rare on outside walls, but Bents A and C have them, even though I don't think I see them on your drawings. They help to they take they attach the tie beams, the low tie beams to the plate level, and in the middle bent, they're not just pegged, but they're actually half dovetails, which is a very strong joint, and that's the most critical place to have that connection, and it's there. The notion of the ridge beam. Alex and I have probably seen, as I said, a couple of thousand barns in New Jersey. I can only think of 3 that had ridge beam. You'll find that in New England. You don't find it in New Jersey. It's very rare, and it would give a false impression of the interior. The whole new rafter system, I question that as well. It may be that some of the rafters need to be repaired, and because you're replacing the roof, the opportunity is there to do so. Certainly know where there are a quantity of rafters of those dimensions. If you wanted to reinforce the roof from any potential splaying in the future, what they would have done in the 18th century would be to have 1 or more collar ties. And if you look, you'll see that the original rafters, the middle set is almost directly over bent B, and that's where I would suggest if you wanted to add that, it could be done. There are very few structural engineers that are comfortable with timber framing. We have worked with John Harrison in the past. I see he's been there. I've been a little disappointed of late in some of his attributions, but in any event, I know Alex and I would be happy to come out and walk through the building and answer any potential questions. But I would just, the structure itself is too important to me to see the whole roof system, the whole second floor, sacrificed to what may be a false impression of deterioration. I don't see any particular value in a roof in this angled roof shingle suggestion. The roof that's there was typical of the 1930s and early 40s. if you were going to put extra money into it, I'd put it into a higher grade wood shingle roof, which would be appropriate for the way it was built and the way it probably survived into the 20th century.
Can
Don't
I
mean
just
to be
jump in real
negative.
quick?
I really mean to be,
I
I
just,
care for the building, and I'm sure that you wouldn't have spent as much time and effort as you have if you didn't feel like the building was significant. I just feel like it bears more scrutiny. Thank you for your time.
now, the extent of your knowledge, I just have a question. Were you relying on anything? Because I have another set of drawings over here that weren't part of us. Okay. So I don't know what
missed
these
almost
are.
everything you said, I'm sorry.
No, so there's another set of drawings and a narrative in here. Was that what you were
Oh, yeah,
relying
yeah,
on?
yeah.
Because I mean,
I've got a copy of that.
okay. And what is it?
Here we go. There.
Okay, and what is this? Yeah.
Oh, I prepared them on my own. And the other buildings on the farm, I actually did it in a snowstorm when it was very cold and very wet. And my only companion for the morning of doing the two barns and the other crib was a barn cat.
Okay. And recently?
That
When
was,
did you-
I think that was about 3 years later. This was done just, I think I saw this morning, I did the drawings in 2004 and I did the measurements in 2004 and the drawings in 2006. Maybe you're wrong on that, 2003 and 2006.
Okay.
I went out there when the Updikes were still living there and before the Historical Society took it over. So, anyway, thank you for your time.
All right.
Okay.
I don't think anyone else is going to have comments as extensive as Elric's.
No.
So, but I'm giving people a chance. Are there other members that have questions or comments? And if not, I guess, Elric, could you enumerate what you would suggest their approach be? I mean, obviously, you want the building to be preserved as is, but I don't know if that's possible, given that it's more than 20 years after you measured it. So I'm just kind of trying to work out.
I hadn't seen these drawings. I got back less than a week ago.
Yeah, so
And
what-
I didn't see these drawings until this morning.
So I'm just wondering, like, maybe in that 20 years, what cannot be repaired and what can be repaired? I mean, it's sort of a,
That's why I say
balance
I'd
right
be
there.
happy to do a walkthrough.
Just to be clear, we're not, all those nice elements you mentioned, we're not taking them away. We're keeping all of those. The only thing that we're removing is the roof framing. So from the top plate down, we're not
That's significant,
changing
though.
anything.
That really is the character of the second floor of the building.
It's in bad shape. It's very bowed. It's been cabled together. The cables did not work. That's failing.
But
And-
It's
and-
remember-
structurally, right now, we have walls built from the first level through to the bottom plate, from the plate up to the rafters, just to simply to support it because it is spreading, like you mentioned, going down. It's also moved on, I think both is happening. The foundation is moving and the building is moving, so it's in worse shape. You
Oh,
mentioned
one thought about the
John
foundation,
Harrison.
and we've used this approach on a
And so
number of buildings.
what's tough is on top of that, what our architect just testified to, is that the structure itself's in imminent threat of failure. I mean, there's serious chance that it'd fall down at any point. So what we're trying to do is maintain, to the greatest extent possible, the historical integrity of the entire structure. So, I mean, opinion, there's great feedback, and we appreciate it. However, what we are looking at now is not just restoring it to, or keeping some of these elements and subjecting this structure to further review. It's what needs to be done as quickly as possible to make sure that the building stays up and we could keep building in our historical inventory.
There are plenty of ways in which that can be done, but I would say
And we've proposed
the approach
those,
is more a
and
renovation than a restoration, at least in the interior. And anyway, I wanted to say your point about
the thing is, we might not have an
pre-
interior. That's the issue, is what we're trying to make sure, is that we make sure we have an interior to keep a lot, I mean, it's going to be on the ground.
Unfortunately, we're past snow season, but scrutinize it. As far as the foundations are concerned, if future plans might include conditioned space, what we've often done is we've actually had the foundation extend about 6 inches to the outside of the plane of the existing building below grade, so that at some point, if they added 6 inches of insulation, you wouldn't have the foundation 6 inches the new foundation 6 inches behind. And that also allows you to, I'd like to think that it wouldn't just be a veneer above ground level, but that's, you know, it's a farm. I understand block work and all that.
And take a look at it. We're actually have like a fence around it because we're afraid that people will go inside of it because it's very dangerous. But I think you would be surprised at how much it's disintegrated.
Okay.
So, but certainly I would love to schedule that with you and have you walk through.
Good.
Just to go back on the shingles, so when we had the prior approval for that, that was what the diamond shape was, what people seem to have wanted. So we own them, or I should say the Historical Society does own the shingles for that barn. So that's from the first approval. So they have them. The lean-to, interestingly, I agree, it's been rebuilt for sure over the years. It is a rubble stone underneath all of that. So it could have been through many lives. It might have been a drive-through, who knows what. But currently, yeah, it's probably early 1920s maybe, at the best, I would guess. So because we could find, or the Historical Society, after extensive research, couldn't find a date when it was added or how important that it was, they thought they should leave it in place because it's there.
We did a similar barn.
At 1920, that's getting fairly old now, 100 years, so that was the thinking.
We had to make that decision a few years ago with the barn that's now part of the Farm Museum in Monroe Township. And again, the lean-to that had been added to it actually was contributing to deteriorating features of the original building. It was mid-20th century, and we did not restore it.
All right, so I'm concerned about, we have 2 more applications, and I would like to find some kind of resolution here, and I do know that the condition of this building is critical, like it's about to fall down. So I guess one more question for you, Elric, is given the situation and given the application, how would you want to move forward?
How would I want?
How would you want to move forward?
As I said, I'm trying to get through tax season, but I'd happily go out there with my business partner and take a look at it whenever it's convenient for you all there.
But we do have an application, so we have to consider the application, like what they're asking for. We can ask for modifications of the application.
I would think that it's possible for those modifications to be taken up administratively rather than before the whole commission. Decisions could be made more expediently.
Elizabeth, I just want you to weigh in on that situation.
I guess it depends on what type of modifications we're talking about.
Well, if I can, it's a matter of we've submitted an application to address the serious condition concerns, which also still satisfies, for instance, historical ordinance, specifically 10B-386. And so what we've submitted, we believe, meets all of the criteria for approval. And so we're willing to consider feedback, but we can't necessarily agree to prolong this for other modifications, like Ms. Kim just noted, that we don't know about.
Yeah, Elric.
I think that the decision, I was on the board at the Historical Society when the farm was bought. And I don't remember our setting a date for interpreting the farm. My assumption from this is that it was to encapsulate the entire sweep of its history rather than a specific date. But I still think that lean-to, it's not original. It's also, whatever you're restoring is pretty insignificant by comparison to most of the other buildings on the property. If it was a chicken house, I'd say, yes, of course, there were chickens, this is important. But this looks like something was put up for a piece of machinery that anyway, so that's one consideration. I do strongly feel like the roof is another. And it may be that things have to be replaced differently, but I would suggest particularly that glue lamp not be part of that scheme.
And we don't have any real jurisdiction over the interior, I mean, given the ordinance and stuff. So, okay, yes, we'll get to public comment in just a second. Okay, thanks. So as far as,
So do you want maybe to list all the things to, whether it be Elric or anyone else, that we can list the things and the commission can vote on those components of it?
yeah, I guess we would just go to specifically what you would object to.
Well, those are the two areas that I'm
Okay,
seeing.
so the one is the glue lamp.
It's the roof system, including but the glue lamp in particular is a false note. And as far as interior is concerned, yes, I know we have no purview over the interior, but when original features are being removed, then I think we have the right to comment.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. And that's, we're really here to work it out. I just want to ask the applicant how you guys have interpreted Elric's comments and if you have any changes in approach or...
Well, I certainly respect Elric's opinion, he knows that.
And I yours.
Thank you. As far as the lean-to, I think the Historical Society is willing to say we don't have to keep the lean-to. So we would agree to change all the little dots on the drawing to the lean-to is gone. So we would certainly abide by that. As far as the roof framing, happy to meet you there. And Mr. Harrison and Wayne, who lives and breathes this building and knows every inch of it and look at it, we can certainly talk about it. I just don't know if...
I couldn't ask more.
At the point that it's at, and I did look at it with and without the parallel, you can guess that. So there are other ways of doing it, and maybe somewhere in there we'll find middle ground, that it's not this, but it's not with the ties that go across, because then your height is limited to 5 feet, which may.
No, but the collar ties would be higher on the
Yeah,
rafters.
they weren't doing anything up that high. They're too high. They weren't keeping it from doing this. But we could sit there with John and go through this. But that was his opinion. So I think we're willing to sit and meet and talk about the roof. And then if we come up with a different approach, then perhaps Elizabeth would be willing to look at it administratively.
I thought we had another meeting in 2 weeks, but in fact, that's not. So that's why I'd say administratively would be the most expedient.
Okay, so would you, what if we accepted their proposal with the condition that no lean-to would be built and that a consultation would happen before the roof is constructed? That's acceptable, do you think?
We could-
And Ronnie, maybe because the lean-to was not going to be rebuilt, and I think that you talked about there's a lot of rubble underneath, maybe there'll be extra to be used for the foundation for the barn.
Yes, agreed.
That's fine, right, because we don't have an issue removing that lean-to portion from the project itself. Just one clarification, that we don't have a problem sitting down and consulting on the roof aspect, but just wanted to confirm it wouldn't be something that would be subject to further review. This means what we're submitting otherwise is what we intend to actually proceed with.
Right, so we would not be returning to the full commission anything, any changes would be done administratively. But there would be a general approval, but if there are changes, we could do it administratively. Does that sound okay?
I'm confused, what changes?
Well, the
Right.
only thing would be if, after the site meeting, you came up with a better idea than what's proposed,
Agreed
then that
on
could
a-
be an easy
on an
change,
alternative.
if you wanted to.
Okay.
Yes.
When, maybe we could set a time
No,
now.
sorry, Leanne asked, that would mean we couldn't start the construction until this is figured out, and I would say yes to that. We would need to do this relatively soon and figure out what the roof
We should work on
structure
like
is.
a 2-week.
Maybe very, very quickly for this.
I agree.
Possibly this week, or next week.
There's nothing left of this week.
You know,
Yeah, but
because
next
it's-
week, yes.
This is.
But, and that's what I'm saying, but again, for not a problem, we're always willing to sit down and speak with anybody at Princeton, whether it be historic or otherwise. But what I'm concerned about is that there might be some confusion as to how this would be sequenced and what that means going forward with further discretion. And past approval, it's not a matter of there being any discretion at that juncture. It's, if we decided from the applicant's standpoint that there's another approach that made sense, that would be something that would be subject to an administrative review for this roofing.
Right.
Otherwise, we would be proceeding with whatever the board ultimately decides.
Right, so we would have at this meeting an approval with the condition that if Albert can get there in a timely manner, a discussion will happen, and then that's all we'll put in the condition.
That's fine. Obviously, like I said, oops, we're always willing to talk with anybody. We just wanted to make sure that what happened post-discussion, that wouldn't impede our abilities to make the repairs and the renovation work that's subject to this proposal on our application.
Mhm.
And how do we feel about the diamond-shaped shingles, which are already purchased and sitting in a garage?
Yeah.
We're good, and we're approved.
Well,
It's sort of like paint. People were just talking about paint. Well, paint's paint, you know, it can be replaced. But I know you need a roof.
And we're also trying to make sure that all of the buildings, 3 of the 4 were already,
With luck, people are
Roof.
going to see the building and not necessarily the roof.
but that
That's
was.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, it's reversible, which is
Right.
part
Right.
of the goal of historic. You can always take the shingles off and put wood shingles on if and when they have the dollars to do so.
Well, in fact, you'd probably want to put a second roof on top of that with insulation. So that's, at that point, if that was the decision, you'd do it. That's when you can introduce a ridge pole that nobody sees because it's above the sight lines inside. Anyway.
We can talk about it. I know what you're saying.
If there are other questions or comments from the board, go ahead, Roger.
I just have it's not a direct comment, but I would hope that the Historical Society will document this whole process. I mean, I think it would be an important feature to add to your arsenal of history of the site. And secondly, you may already know about this, but I walked around the property yesterday, I guess it was, and flushed out 2 turkey vultures who seemed to be nesting inside the building, so,
Yes, they are.
yeah.
I will say, we already do have a self-guided tour on the property and one right in front of the wagon shed that documents its history. We would, of course, update that to show that we had recently done the restoration.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions, comments? If not, I want to open up to the public. If there's public comments, questions, please go ahead.
do they need to be sworn in?
Oh, yeah, just,
I mean, we can. Can you what's your first name
Doug
and your last name?
Cha,
Can you spell that?
C-H-I-A.
Okay. Do you swear that the testimony that you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay.
Thank you. So my name is Doug Cha. I happen to be the president of the board of the Historical Society. I was coming here as a spectator, but feel compelled to speak and ask some questions. I guess, Elric, is it? So are you proposing that we just demolish the lean-to and that's it? Or are you saying that we just
Yes.
leave it until it crumbles?
No, I mean, it would come down in about an hour, I think, from what I can tell.
Okay, so that's the,
I just don't see the value if you can record it. I'm interested.
no, I understand. I just want to understand what your,
Foundation, that's worth recording.
I just want to understand what your counter proposal is. Okay. And then the rafters, I don't think anyone's going in there to see what the thing looks like inside.
It is, obviously, ADA would prohibit that.
Yeah.
But as far as the history of the building and the history of the farm is concerned, it's important if there are elements that survive, that they be retained if at all possible.
Sure. Okay. You know, as the president of the board is the ultimate steward of this property. We have a fiduciary duty. We also have legal duties to make sure this structure, which is the oldest structure on the property, stays up. And we don't want to be irresponsible. We've been trying to do this project for many months now. As the months go on, it deteriorates and gets more expensive. We've actually already had several several proposals from, the builders and everybody else, where the price keeps going up, much to the alarm of the board, I might say. Obviously, it's not going to get any better. Yes, snow season is over, but rain season is upon us, and there is water leaking in to the structure. So it's not a matter of the snow carrying weight on the roof. Water is gonna, water is not our friend. Neither are windstorms. So I am concerned every time it rains that this thing is going to cave in. Like I said, we're the ultimate stewards. I kind of feel like, Eldrick, when you have some really good points, the saying, don't let the perfect be the enemy of good, comes to mind immediately. And so I don't want to, discount too much, but there are some things that are just niceties, really nice to haves. And yes, I would like the whole thing to look exactly like it did in 1720 or 1890 or whatever, but we just don't have the luxury of doing that. And at some point, the whole thing's going to be moot because there won't be a structure anymore. Now, that might take a lot of burden off the hands of the Board of Trustees, but that's not what we want to happen. So those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. Obviously, there's been a huge amount of deterioration over the last 20 years.
It's not just over that. I mean, I also have pictures from then to now in the last 3 months. Every time we go out there, it's worse. The water is deteriorating, the shingles are all over the ground. It's worse every time we see it, unfortunately.
Right, and so you guys need to act quickly. So with that, I think we can agree that they need to move ahead to save this building. So
Let's make a date.
given that, Elric, did you want to form a motion to accept the proposal?
I would, I'm very bad at this. I think that the building deserves further scrutiny and that attention should be paid particularly when it seems like the lean-to has now got into the general fund for possible gutters. But in any event, the existing conditions be assessed and some possible alternatives be examined in terms of the restoration of the roof.
Now, that means that they would not be getting an approval.
Oh, I think that it seems like around the table, at least half of my concerns have been addressed. And I can't speak because I haven't been in that building for probably 7-8 years, something like that. And what you're saying is deterioration is rampant, then our examination should be rampant too.
Yes.
Yep.
If
this week is really tough for me.
So,
but next week would be.
But I don't think
much
we have
better.
time to, I don't think they have the time or luxury to come back to our commission.
Well, that's
so-
why I thought these decisions could be made administratively, if we can come up with some agreement.
So
If-
what about this? What about if there is a time frame
I get
that,
this.
that the applicant and Elric meet within 2 weeks? Because, we're here because of the emergency review. Obviously, we don't want to drag it out. Everyone wants to do the right thing to preserve the building the best we can. So if 2 weeks is acceptable and within that time frame, a meet and agreement made, if there's an alteration, If there is no alteration, then maybe to agree to let the applicant go as proposed and meet the other components, which is a lean-to would be removed and not rebuilt. The cascade shingles would be allowed to be installed. The foundation construction would stay as proposed and, as was told, use as much of the rubble to be incorporated into the foundation. I don't know what other comments, that Elric might have.
Well said.
So,
Is that okay?
Okay, so your
So,
motion
no.
is to approve the application with the condition that if a meeting can be arranged within the next 2 weeks, that we would administratively approve anything that changes that approval, right?
There's a 2-week time frame, yes.
Okay.
And then if there is no agreement,
Then they
Then
would
the-
just go ahead as planned. Okay.
So,
Yeah.
if I may, what we've agreed to do tonight is remove the lean-to, thinking from a practical standpoint. We have to update our plans to reflect the concession made by the applicant tonight, that they're going to be willing to remove the lean-to. That will probably take a week or two. What we could also do in the meantime is, should the board vote to approve it tonight, it would be conditioned upon revised site plans, which would also still need to be submitted to Princeton because we also have an administrative waiver application that's pending as well, which is the other issue here with timing. It was approved subject to the board's approval. So we'll be submitting revised plans to reflect the concession that the applicant was willing to make tonight. We will then set the applicants further willing to sit down and meet with whoever. We'll extend the invitation within the next 2 weeks, hear any concerns that they might have, and if the applicant were to consider some type of different approach, then it's something that they could evaluate how to make that approach administratively. But it wouldn't be binding upon the applicant to some further agreement when we're not quite sure what that meeting would avail as to what might still be suggested. So if the board were to approve it tonight, it's what we've submitted absent the lean-to.
Okay, that makes sense. Is that,
I wouldn't want the building collapsed because I hadn't done my part. I would feel very guilty. I want to make this happen fast.
okay, all right. So I think that's a motion. And everyone is clear on what we're doing?
so are we setting that timeline? I mean, the drawings are going to be revised to show the lean-to removed and not rebuilt. We'll give a 2-week period for the applicant and Elric to meet at the site. If there's an alternate that could be agreed upon for the roofing, it will be done, but if within that time period it doesn't, they can proceed with what they had proposed.
Right.
Correct.
And that would be what would be approved tonight. I just want to be
Correct.
clear, because
Right,
obviously
correct.
we'll sit down, meet with anybody, hear any considerations or feedback we might get, but I don't want anybody to think that we're going to be changing anything. We might, but if
Oh.
but that would be
We
administrative.
can add
Right.
to if that motion and the resolution that any changes would be within the applicant's discretion.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Is there a second? Okay, Charlotte seconds. The motion was from Elric. All right. You want to take a vote?
Ms. Satterfield? Yes. Mr. Shatskin?
Yes.
Ms. Howard?
Yes.
Mr. Shore?
Yes.
Mr. Endersby?
Yes.
Ms. Friedman? Yes. Chairperson Capizzoli?
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I know this was a
Really
little
appreciate it.
complicated, but I think we got to where we needed to go. Thank you. Okay. All right, thank you so much. Now we're going to Nassau Presbyterian Church.
A lot of Dominican, not a lot, but Dominican money and no. What? Like morning best. Yeah, I get to work by 6. I'm not Yeah, no, I look forward to it, and I think I got Alex's interest this morning, and he's usually reluctant to get involved in anything that I'm talking about. But and just entre nous, we have hundreds of pieces of sash, and we have plenty of the same siding that you're talking about, and we have got to dispose of barns full of stuff. So, when the time comes, I'll happily make it.
All right, hi, thank you for coming. Again, we're looking at Nassau Presbyterian Church, 61 Nassau Street. Thank you so much for coming in. Elizabeth has a short report, so if she could summarize it maybe, that would be great.
It's really short because I don't have a copy of it in front
Oh, you
of me.
don't?
Does anyone have one that's printed? I could kind of summarize.
I have,
Ellery's house in the Dominican. Yes.
okay, let's see. I might, all right. So,
Okay,
are we set?
yes.
Okay.
Okay. So the applicant, Nassau Presbyterian Church, has filed an application pursuant to the Princeton Land Use Ordinance to alter the building by replacing auxiliary double doors that face Nassau Street and the parking lot off the west facade. The project is identified as Block 45.01, Lot 40, on the Princeton tax map with the address 61 Nassau Street. It is located in the E1B zone and situated in the south side of Nassau Street, across the street from Palmer Square. The property lies within an educational neighborhood with the business district directly across the street. The property is located in the local Central Historic District, as known and shown on the municipal overlay zoning map of historic districts and buffer district. It also falls within 2 designated New Jersey National Register of Historic Places, Princeton Historic District and the Kings Highway Historic District. Its historic district classification is type 2, which is subject to preservation plan review for any changes visible from the public right-of-way and painting or adding other surface color to an unpainted surface or adding pre-primed and pre-finished material. Again, as with this project, we've had many applications that have come before us that are in both these state and national districts and the local districts. I'm just kind of move along. I will add a little bit of information on the building, though. According to the 1981 Architectural Survey, Nassau Presbyterian Church was built in 1836 in the Greek Revival style by Charles Stedman. However, the design was based on William Stickland's design, who was an architect in Philadelphia. The building is one story with a stucco face foundation, stucco exterior walls, and a gable standing seam metal roof. It is 3 bays north, street-facing facade. Sorry.
6 bays across the side.
Yeah. Oh.
I read it.
You did, but I can't get rid of this now. Something happened. Hold on.
Oh, God. It just comes up sometimes.
I know.
This computer has a mind of its own. I don't know why it's...
Mine does that too. How about there? I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
Here.
Oh,
Do we-
Frida has it
I
on
have
her
it pulled up on my
computer.
computer if you want, if you want it.
Lisa gave it to her, but sometimes something shows up. Thank you. Let me see. Okay, yes, and as Albert says, 6 bays on the west side. There are tall vertical stained glass windows and regular fenestrations with a center mullion. There are 2 enormous wooden iconic columns, and corner pilaster strips are on each side of the recessed portico with large double entrance doors supported by a small entablature. There are auxiliary doors on the east and west sides of the porch walls and unadorned pediment and entablatures. An octagonal-shaped chapel was added to the west side of the church in 1953. On the 1895 through the 1906 Sanborn maps, you can see that there was a chapel present on the southwest corner of the building at one point. The church was once known as First Presbyterian Church, which is one of Princeton's most important institutions. Historically, church and college have always been related. The church has had 4 houses of worship on this site, which was west of the original college property, where the President's House, McLean House, and Nassau Hall stood. When Nassau Hall was built, the church was organizing in 1755, which made Presbyterians a dominant religious faith at the time. The first meeting house was completed in 1766, and the third was built around 1803 as the first revival building in Princeton, although it burned down in 1835. So the erection of the present church building was constructed in its place and came at the time when the black population was excluded from the congregation, which resulted in the creation of the Witherspoon Presbyterian Church. Further division within the church resulted in the organization of a second Presbyterian church in the mid-19th centuries. But by 1973, these 2 congregations reunited to form the Nassau Presbyterian Church. So that's the history of that proper. So the applicant is coming. There are 2 doors that their application speaks of. One they address as entrance A, which faces Nassau Street on the east side addition at the rear of the building. Currently, there are double wood doors with single panels on the bottom and 8 panes above. It has 4-panel type of a transom, no wood above that. The proposed replacement window will fit into the existing door opening with a wider single steel door and a side light and a 5-pane transom. And that was included to fit within the rough door opening. The new door will have 2 recessed panels on the bottom, which will nearly double the current panel height with 6 panes of glass above. The side light will mimic the location of the panel and glass panes of the door with 1 raised panel below and 3 glass panels above. They're proposing a white finish on the door, which will match the existing door, and the hardware will be brass. So within your package, you could see those drawings that they have for exhibit for entrance A, and also for entrance B, which again is on the west side. And I'm not really going to go into that. That one seems to match more consistently, and they are making that door wood because it's protected. However, that's not visible from the right-of-way, so HPC doesn't really need to be reviewing that. So, again, the criteria, the HPC reviews for this application with the design criteria, I can't get down any further on this. However, I think that there were only 2 questions, I believe. One question that I had, which had to do with, was the wood panels above to remain and not part of the new transom that was proposed. That's the only question I had. So obviously, entrance A, the door system is going to be different. Right now, there are 2 doors that open, that are the same dimension. They are putting one wider door with a side light and then a transom to fit within that door opening. So it's up to HPC if they feel that is appropriate or not. It seems like that is a later addition. I don't know when that is, but perhaps was added on. Okay, so. And if-
Okay, thank you. All right, thanks, Elizabeth. I'll turn it over to the applicant. Thank you for coming.
I'm Linda Billmore, and I'm the business administrator of Nassau. Sorry to interrupt, can we just swear you? Oh, thank you. Can you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear that the testimony that you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay. And can you just state your full name for the record again?
Linda. All right, thanks for coming.
Thank you. I just have very brief comments to explain. As I said, this is a 1940 addition to the building, and the doors in question are approximately 100 feet from Nassau Street.
Oh, thank you. Like most houses of worship, we're very concerned about safety and security these days. And this entrance leads to stairs that go directly down and up to where our nursery and classrooms for children and youth are. The entrance is visible essentially only when you're directly in front of it. I provided a few additional photos that show from different angles that it actually kind of disappears. While this is not a point of entry for people attending our programs, by virtue of this less visible location, it is an actual point of potential vulnerability for the building. We have had a security review with the local police department, and we're advised that hardening our entries was one of the more important things for us to do. We're also very conscious of our energy use, and these doors are old, and despite efforts to repair, the repairs have never lasted long, and the doors are not at all weather tight. This entrance is not sheltered at all from the weather, which has caused the repeated need for repair. So we have proposed the steel doors to maximize both their security, energy efficiency, and durability. We did get a quote for steel doors that were double of the same dimensions, but that would have been a custom order, and the quote was approximately 4 times the cost of what we've currently proposed. We were quite determined to maintain the raised panel. We also got proposals for steel doors without the raised panels, because that's more standard, and we didn't feel like that was in character with the building, which we are very conscious of. So we have proposed these doors because they accomplish the durability, security, and weather tightness while still maintaining the character of the existing entry at a reasonable cost. As stated before, the decorative woodwork above the door will be retained. The transom is added because the existing doors are 90 inches, which is not a standard steel door. So to fill that, so the rough opening will not change at all.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, so really, we're just talking about that one door because the other one isn't really visible. So I think you can see from the photograph how much you would see on Nassau Street. So I'll open it up to the commission members for questions.
I'm just trying to get oriented on this. The two doors are next to each other. The new proposed door shows a transom above it. Does that then replace the transom that I think is blocked in?
No, the scale of the two things that are side by side is not.
So this is under that.
Yeah, so the wood sort of transom area will remain, that's below the light fixture. And then the glass transom will be just below that, and the doors will be shorter by,
Right.
9 to 10 inches than the current doors.
Thank you.
Right, so this is a 6/8 door, and the doors you have right now are 90.
They're 90.
Yeah, okay.
If I did the numbers, I could figure that out.
Yeah. All right, thank you. Other questions for the applicant? Elric, go ahead.
I find the replacement awkward looking, and I think and I'm not dictating anything here, but I would look to the window immediately above on the landing, I presume, above it, and and try to make it feel as if they go with each other. I can understand why you wouldn't want two doors, but the new door looks too narrow to me, and it seems to me like if it was broader and it had 9 lights instead of 6, that is 3 across in addition to 3 above, and eliminate the side light, it would feel more compatible. And the same thing with the panel, with the transom above. It's not directly above the glazing on the window above the lantern there. I would follow that exactly if possible, and then there would be more space on either side of the door. But that's just my take on it. And as far as the other ones are concerned, that's fine. And I agree. I know people don't really look at it. It opens out, and I guess there's a reason for it opening as it does to the right, so it would be, I have no problem with that.
There is the wall is to the right looking at this, and there's actually a walkway to the university.
Do the kids use it to get out, or is that really
It's
an
rarely
egress?
used, it's an emergency egress, but it's really hardly used.
I see. And
It's a custom door, or is this just off the shelf?
This is not a custom door. That's what we're trying to avoid for practicalities of budget in the church.
yeah. So are there any suggestions or it is pretty far off of Nassau Street. So you're going way back there. I do understand your security concerns because, yeah, you don't want, if somebody were trying to get in those doors, it wouldn't be very obvious, especially in the evening. Like,
Yeah, the doors are not very visible. And even from the university driveway, they're really not visible. Yeah.
right, right. So, I mean, I'm all about health, safety, and welfare. So I get with kids behind that door, you definitely want something a little more secure. So I understand
Is this a
that.
bar? Do you push a bar to open the door? Probably.
Yeah, we have to have the panic hardware by
Yeah.
code for the egress, yeah.
Right.
I have a question.
Yes.
I have a question about the door, the glass in the door. Is that frosted or clear? It
It'll be
looks
clear
frosted.
glass. It's
Is it-
currently clear and it will be clear glass.
It will
yes.
be, I'm just thinking about the whole security issue, if you wanted to have a little more security.
I mean, we could consider frosting the glass, but again, we were trying to keep the appearance
Right.
as close to the same as we could. Yeah.
Okay.
It seems particularly with kids, you'd want to be able to see through that glass, so you're not
What?
banging. You want to have it, so you could see if there's a kid on the outside of the door that you were opening it into.
I do think from a safety standpoint, exiting, you need at least some clear glass to be able to see out.
Okay.
Right. Any other questions?
How wide is this new door?
I-
Do we know?
It's,
Is this a 3-foot?
the door itself is 42 inches wide.
Is how many?
The
40
door is 42 inches wide. The single door, yeah.
Okay, and I think that on your drawings, you said that the rough opening is 60 inches by
The
90
rough
inches.
opening is 60,
The existing.
60 by 90.
Okay,
So
well, I'm
the-
not going to press my point. It just seems, it does look awkward to me, but I'll keep my eyes diverted.
I see. So the proportions of the doors right now are a little strange.
Yeah, they're very tall, narrow doors
Yeah.
now, yeah.
Right. And you're saying this was built in the 1940s?
1940 was the date of this particular addition. There's multiple additions to the building.
Yeah, okay. So this isn't anything, I mean, obviously it's older than a lot of things, but it's not
Yeah. I
as
mean,
old
it's
as
not nearly
other
as old
parts
as
of
the main part of the main sanctuary
of the other
building
parts
is.
of the building. Okay. Any other thoughts, questions, comments on this door replacement?
I think it has a institutional or functional look to it, which is really what was there previously, just to a different architect's eye and perhaps at that time more custom-made. And so there are a couple of thoughts that go through your mind is, one, the cost and the security. It's an upgrade of security, which is probably driving a lot of the cost. And then to try and make it custom back to what it was may not be as functional anyway. An approach that someone might take on putting a newer door in an older building would be, let's say it's a new door and pick it out in some way, but I don't recommend that. I think trying to have it be white and just disappear into place is about the best we can do. And again, it's a changeable element. You're not cutting into the structure of the building. We're not losing any of that trim above it. You know, someday when there's
Yeah, there's no
gobs of extra
structural
money,
change.
yeah. So I think that we all can be looking at it and people can say, well, why didn't the commission think of these things? I think we have thought of them and this is the solution that's in front of us.
Right. I mean, I do think that there's the whole issue of having doors that are not like the standard 6'8" by whatever makes security a lot more difficult and expensive. So I understand why you have to
They're
go
actually
that
pretty
route.
What-
awkward to use, because one is not very wide, but opening both of them is difficult. So,
Right.
yeah.
And
One
if you-
additional thought, and that is just take the door that you've ordered and put it right in the middle. And if you did that, then with the swing of the door, given the way the building projects out, it's going to be pretty straight. But if the door was centered, it could be folded open further, which might be an advantage rather than have it.
And then would you recommend that they get rid of the light on the side, just get rid of that? Or
Yes.
and just fill it in with paneling?
I mean, you could do Stedman would use these really narrow pieces of glass on either side. That could be done. But you're introducing a transom above and there are lights in the door itself. I didn't think it was 42 inches wide. It doesn't look it on the drawing, but in any event, I just feel like that would be more compatible. And I should shut up. Sorry.
Do you, did you ever look at a door without a side light?
We were trying to keep the rough opening the same.
Yeah.
So we were trying to fit the opening there, so we didn't actually get any proposal for that option of filling in and the part of the opening.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm torn between the fact that this is 100 feet from the street, and the proposal does kind of screw up the symmetry of the upper window and the doors. I think Elrick's idea of centering the door would solve that to some degree, or to a great degree. But
Do you know if you centered the door, would you be able to infill it on either side?
I'd have to go to the contractor and find out. I assume there's a way. It's just a matter of what the cost is to construct more framing there in the opening. Because
I mean-
obviously the rough opening is going to stay the same. And
Right, you have to, they're definitely keeping with the opening.
So we'd have to add framing on the either side to fill in the space that the side light would fill in.
Right. I mean, this is awfully far off the street. I don't know. I definitely get the point that you're a church and it's not easy and you've got a security concern and you need to use the standard door. So I totally get that.
So, I mean, I agree that if the door was centered, it would read better with the windows above it. And as long as you don't make the opening larger, is more of a problem for retaining that, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah, but if you fill it in, that actually, you still are able to retain the original opening to an extent, like it could always be opened up again if you want to. If you didn't want to get too narrow side lights and you just wanted to center the door, I mean, I agree, I think that would actually look better.
I mean, another thing is, if you center it though, then the hinge is exposed, and that does make it slightly less secure.
The hinges.
What?
I mean, you know, it's, right now they're showing the hinge all the way in the corner of the opening. Whereas, you know, if you move the door over,
But then they fill the sides in.
The framing for the door jambs would take care of all that.
yeah, I mean, I guess that then there would be no, you know, it's just a lot more custom work.
Yeah.
And-
Will definitely change the cost, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I guess that's the concern is if we ask for them to go to custom work, then there's perhaps other issues we don't know about.
I'll turn a blind eye.
I mean,
Let-
and I don't know if there's a time issue either, so.
We would love to start as soon as
Right,
possible.
As soon as possible, right, I know, cost of everything.
Oh,
going
no,
up.
isn't that what everybody wants?
Yeah, yeah. So, I don't know, I guess the question is, do you feel strong enough that it needs to be custom? Or do you feel like they could go with this plan they've worked out?
I'd drop any objection. We'll just, let's be practical here.
Okay, I didn't hear that last part, so. So what others, are you feeling it needs to be custom and they should move the door? Or is this approach acceptable for this location? I guess I'm trying to get a person-by-person sense of where we're going with that. So David, do you
I was going to ask if Mrs. Gilmore could get, you know, a proposal on the centered door, no side lights, because that's where the cost could actually be saved. And then if you could approve it administratively, if it comes back, that's something that could be done. That's just what I'm thinking. I'm just trying to cover all the bases, understanding the need, and, but I have trouble looking at it. I think everybody sitting here is having trouble looking at it, the way it lines up. So if there was like one more option that could be asked for, and then let you guys make the decision when it comes in and let them move forward.
Charlotte, do you have any comment?
Yeah, I mean, I think it would, sorry. I mean, aesthetically, I think it would be nicer with centered and two solid, skinny solid panels. I would hope that wouldn't, jack up the cost.
Yeah, I'll just have to find out. We haven't pursued that option.
Okay. Any other, Frida?
I mean, I agree that obviously it would look better if it were centered, I do. But I think for where it is, you could go with what you've already sourced, but it's worth getting a quote on. There's a lot out there, so it's worth getting a quote on that.
Uncentering it. Shirley, did you have any feelings about it?
No, I agree with everything. I think it needs a renewal.
Yeah, it needs a new, definitely needs a new
I think
door.
we can all agree it needs a new
Yeah.
door.
Yeah. Roger, did you have anything? No? Okay, so if we would recommend approval, we could recommend the approval of the doors shown but centered. And then anything that would work with that would be acceptable, either glass or solid?
So that would preclude going back to this if the
Yeah, so
shift
you,
was
so you wouldn't have
cost
to. come-
prohibitive?
Right, so you wouldn't have to come back here, you could just go
No,
forward.
my question was, are you precluding this design if the other option of centering the door is significantly more
Oh.
costly for us?
Yeah, I mean, we're not
We don't
really.
take into consideration finance.
Yeah, we're not supposed to like really
Yeah.
make
Okay.
our decisions based on finance. But I know your church, and I know that this is not an easy task. There's a lot of demands, especially for that building.
Yeah.
That's a lot of building to take care of.
It's a lot of building
So-
to take care, and there's a lot of need in the community right now, and we're
Yeah,
trying to
there's a lot of other
direct our resources to the
demands
need
for
of the
your
community. Yeah.
resources, definitely. So, let's see. So if they can't find a solution that centers the door, can we say, like, we can do this administratively?
I guess I'm not understanding when you say that they can't find a solution to center the door.
Well, let's
mean-
say that they want to center the door, but they can't find appropriate sides to fill in, like it,
You mean side lights?
yeah.
Okay, so I guess the question is the commission saying that the preference is to have it centered with two side lights? Or are they saying centered with no side lights? I wasn't clear.
Right. I mean,
So, so we would have some solid fill
right,
there.
so
that-
just
that-
solid on either side of the door,
Okay,
and then approve this door, but just have it centered,
okay.
okay? So this would be an approval without the side light. It would just be an approval as this door, but centered.
Is that what, okay, I'm looking at the commission,
Yeah.
I'm seeing if that's
I think
what
it
they're
would,
going to do.
I think it wouldn't draw as much attention to itself, and the simpler the better.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so is there a motion?
Madam Chair, did you want to open to the public?
What's that?
Did you want to open?
Oh, sorry, I'm opening it up to the public, if anyone would like to speak. Okay, nobody wants to speak on this one. All right, so is there a motion to approve the door and the glass transom above, but have the door centered?
Say that again, Julie?
So the door would be centered, the one we have in the application, we'd be approving that door, and we'd be approving the transom glass above it, but the applicant would be filling in either side of the door, however they want to fill it in.
Question, is the transom the width of the door?
That's what I'm wondering,
Or is
too.
it the width
Yeah.
of the opening?
The transom's the
transom
width
should-
of the whole thing, because it has to fit in that opening.
Well, and that mimics the 5 panes of the window up above it also.
Do a sketch.
Yeah. All right, so,
So moved.
okay, thanks, David. Is there a second? Thanks, Shirley. Okay,
Thank you.
Ms. Satterfield? Yes. Mr. Shatskin? Yes. Ms. Howard?
Yes.
Mr. Shore?
Yes.
Mr. Endersby?
Yes.
Ms. Friedman? Yes. Chairperson Capizzoli?
yes. All right, well, thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you.
in, and good luck. I hope this ends up being even less than what it
Maybe
would
so.
cost.
We'll see.
It
Thank
might
you.
cost less.
Yeah, I appreciate your time.
Sure, thank you. All right, we're moving on to our next application, which is 342 and 338 Nassau Street. And, oh, you can take it. Thank you. And I see Tara. Thank you, Lisa. All right. All right, we have a little legal change. Brian, I think you think Tara just follows you around.
If you were fully familiar, you'd probably think she does even more, actually.
All right, thank you for coming. Thank you for coming back. It's good to see you. All right, so Elizabeth, you have a report.
Thank you. So I'm really going to just briefly talk about what's happened since the last time that HPC had reviewed this application. And those of you who had attended, you may recall that this was done at the end of the year, December 16, 2024, where HPC had reviewed this application. And at that time, the applicant was adding a one-story addition to the back of the existing building at 342 Nassau Street. A portion of the building's exterior wall and porch required demolition. The existing parking lot was going to be reconfigured to accommodate the new addition and to extend the parking into the adjoining parking lot at 388 Nassau Street. There were shared amenities between the two properties, which included construction of a new plaza, a new pedestrian and vehicular access, and other improvements proposed were to the existing building at 342 Nassau Street. And from your package, you can see, and also they had also gone to the planning board meeting on February 20, 2025, with a memorandum from the HPC dated February 19th. And as you can see from the revised plan, which is very appreciated, that the applicant did consider many of the comments that HPC had made to come up with an alternate design. The proposed building has been pushed further away from North Harrison Street to provide more visibility of the existing historic structure. In addition, the height had been reduced, so you're able to see more of the building fenestrations in the rear. They had changed the design just to have a simple gable roof. I believe the dimensions of the conference room are about the same, but they do have a new glass enclosure, kind of a 1- and 2-step level with a flat roof that's mostly glass with some paneling, but I will leave that to the applicant to talk about. They had also proposed relocating some of the hawthorn trees. With the new design, they had removed the plaza area and instead within that area placed a 4-foot walkway, and they had also reduced the much wider crosswalk between the two buildings to be 5 feet. There is a new patio in between where the residential unit is at 342 and the new building addition. So there are other details, but I think the applicant is prepared to present, so I don't want to take his thunder away. There was lack of detail on this, so really I believe that this is more of a feedback from HPC, if I'm correct, Mr. Kennedy. And I'm not sure how you want to proceed with that, and that could be discussed later, whether you're coming in just to kind of get the feedback and then come back with a more formal application, or I guess that's to be talked about. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Elizabeth. And thank you, Board, for hearing us again. Ryan Kennedy from Stevens and Lee for the applicant. To my left, your right, we've got our 2 witnesses that we'll have this evening, our architect from Posen Architecture, Tom, and our planner engineer, Jim, from Kensho Resources. Maybe we could swear them both in,
Yeah,
probably round robin as we go through this.
That'd be great.
Okay, both just raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give this evening is the whole truth to the best of your knowledge?
I do.
I do.
Thank you.
They were both, I guess, accepted as experts last time. I don't know if it's necessary to go into any more detail there, but thank you. So first off, when we were here last, we got a lot of comments and ultimately went back to the drawing board. I think it will not surprise you that the planning board essentially, I'll say, and Madam Chair, you could probably do this better than I, since you were there, but ultimately took the opportunity, since we had been scheduled with the planning board, to get feedback on essentially your comments and a drawing that we had done as an interim kind of progress towards what we think we were hearing from HPC. And essentially we're back here to take you through it, hopefully to see that we're close as we get towards the end. We'll note that we do have to finish engineering before we can go back to planning. So there will be revised submissions. Perhaps we can discuss about how close we are on the details, if it's perhaps on our end here, if there's a subcommittee that's appropriate, or if it's some small level of detail, or if it's a big level of detail, we can talk about what your expectations are. But our hope would be that we have gotten close, or close enough that we're in the right ballpark that we could finish the engineering part of things. The big things we heard, one were the design itself of the addition to the building on the corner. That's been radically changed, both visually, in scale and size, and most importantly, we think, in the setback from Harrison Street. So it's been staged and stepped back considerably from its prior configuration, and designed in a way that it is ultimately its own thing from a design perspective. It's not trying to be necessarily blending in to any particular part of history or the type of building that's there, but designed in an almost unique way independently. We heard both from here and the planning board to look at the ingress and egress, and essentially we've agreed to relook with the professionals' comments to keep ingress and egress as it is now on Nassau Street. If you recall, we'll show you in a second, one of the big ideas of this project is to combine the 2 parking lots so that the corner property is a much safer and easier entrance onto Harrison, pulled back from the corner. We also took a lot of efforts to preserve and in some cases relocate the row of trees that was between the property and only kind of having a very minimal interruption there. There was some discussion of I'll call it a water feature or some type of plaza that was between the two buildings. We did not get good feedback on that, and we've come back with something much simpler, closer to, essentially a sidewalk type plaza to connect the buildings. Those are the core changes. We've eliminated and reduced the core variances that were needed. There will be a few once it goes back to planning. Particularly, one of the feedback comments we got there were a few, I'll say, technical variances for parking setbacks and some of the buffer areas that were alleviated or reduced greatly by reducing the size of the parking spaces. That's a common thing that is done, in a suggestion we got from the board's professionals there, that reduces or perhaps eliminates some of those variances as well, and helps us keep more of the row of trees between the properties at the same time. Some of the other things there will be a spot for an electric vehicle charger as part of the design closest to the new addition. And also, you'll hear from our architect a desire or kind of sliding over of this addition allows us not just to see more of the building and its windows, covering up less of it, but have a much more scalpel-like intrusion into the building using the existing, I believe, the existing doorway as part of the staircase. So with that, we'll kind of slide through. Again, just a reminder of where we are in Jugtown in the ROB district. Just technically, since I'm not going to testify here, Jim, we're looking at the slide here that this shows where the property is?
Correct, yes.
Again, here's the historic map. That arrow points to the two properties there in the Jugtown district?
Yeah, in that overlay, historic overlay.
Next, we've got some aerial views here showing the two existing properties that we will be looking at and essentially combining into one site. In this photo, you can also see in the back the enclosure for the generator that this board may remember from a couple of years ago as well.
Correct.
Next, Jim, we've got kind of oriented, rotating 90 degrees. You can see it from the North Harrison Street perspective. I guess, unfortunately, this photo was taken from space at a time when there wasn't a lot of greenery on that row of trees, but you can kind of see, if you squint, perhaps, between the lot lines, that row of trees.
Right, and I think on that side, too, you can see where the existing parking is, where there's limited back-out area, where those stalls head in the existing condition. So we'll be turning those 90 degrees and then shifting the apron to the right to make better ingress to connect to the adjacent property.
So then this diagram, Jim, might show that as well. This is the existing conditions at the site?
Yes, two-way entrance up off Harrison as well as on Nassau Street, and then that separation currently of the properties with the hornbeam hedge and some curbing on 338.
All right. This is the original design that we talked about last time. Not much we don't want to focus too much on it, but you can see in orange was the original location of the proposed addition, and you can see between that addition and the existing building at 338, the more elaborate plaza kind of connection that was initially proposed. Tom, we'll just, again, not to focus too much on the original design, but just as a reminder of what was proposed last time, this is the elevation of the addition to the building on 342 on the corner from Harrison Street.
That's correct.
And then
You have to look at it again.
Good point. We won't want to burn it into anyone's retinas, unfortunately. But again, this is the rear prior and now abandoned rear elevation, and then the internal elevation if you were looking from that plaza area. Tom, briefly, left is the original, I'll say, kind of basic of the site plan and the layout of the addition. On the right is the proposed and revised. I want to just take the board quickly through the major changes from a layout perspective in the program here?
Sure. One of the big moves was moving the addition further away from Harrison Street, which is one of the requests that this board made. So we slid it over. We're setting the building back the same distance as the residential structure on the Nassau Street side. Parking comes around the conference room, if you will, to the entrance in the rear. There's a new sort of smaller patio formed between the entry into the new addition plus the entry into the small residential element. We're also providing a connecting piece, which we're calling the foyer, which has a barrier-free toilet room to make that lower level at least accessible. The entrance from the main house comes through the door, the existing door, and then down the steps into the foyer. And we're suggesting another set of stairs, because we're at a mid-level at this point, that would go down to the basement level to provide a more secure access to the basement level than what exists today.
Is it correct that the primary way to actually get into the basement now is through some Bilco doors? There's been some, I'll just say, problems with using it that way?
That's right. There's been, I guess, some vandalism on those doors, and plus when you open those doors, it's pretty treacherous to get down to the basement.
Next, we've got a kind of rendering from, this is the internal view of the building, looking as if you were at the 338 building across the parking lot?
That's correct. You can see the connecting link, which is a flat roof structure that connects the main house to the new conference room. The conference room is much smaller in scale. The roof comes down significantly. Now the ridge is only at about the windowsill height of the second floor windows. So from the second floor, you can look straight out across it. Before, it was somewhat constricted by the taller element there. We're trying to make the connecting piece more glazed, almost a little bit more of a contemporary feature, connecting the existing historic structure to the new conference room.
Now, on the bottom right, that kind of enclosure, I know there was some discussion last time about the air conditioning condenser units that were at one point perhaps proposed for the street side. Those will be relocated to this side and enclosed and shielded.
That's
in that
correct.
Location.
That's correct.
Next, this is the other side from Harrison.
Yeah, you can see in this view that the new addition has been pushed over quite a bit. The majority of the north facade of the existing historic structure is now visible because the ridge line is much lower. And you can see the connecting link, which is more glazed with some raised panels where there isn't any glazing. But again, it's meant to be, a light connection between the existing building and the new conference room.
Here we have some, with apologies of needing to look at the prior proposal, I suppose, but some side-by-sides of the original proposal and the proposal to the right, showing the relocated and downsized
Yeah, you can
addition.
see. Yeah, you can see from the elevation on the right that much more of the existing house is now exposed since we have slid the building over, as I mentioned. The ridge line of the new piece has come down significantly to the tune of 6 or 7 feet. So now it's at about the height of the sill of the second floor windows. So again, it's much more, I'll use the word diminutive in structure, much more reduced in scale.
Yep.
You can also see from the side-by-side comparison here, looking at the older version of the conference room and the newer version to the right, you can see that the scale has been reduced significantly. So the existing house really does take precedence, I'll say, and really, stands out.
One other thing just to note, on the far right here, you can see the existing front porch. The plan, following the HPC's comments, is essentially to repair that in kind.
That's correct, yes.
Could you repeat that?
The plan for the front porch is to repair it in kind.
Good.
Would you mind repeating that? No, all kidding aside, our goal here is to, hopefully that we heard you guys and the planning board, and to the extent we missed something, please let us know. But what our hope is that we've heard your comments and are incorporating them into the revised plan. Next, Tom, this last one, again, this is the side view from the street, but I guess with also some context of the additional setbacks kind of overlaid as well, so you can see the diminished size, which you can see from the elevations, but also the setbacks, which you really need to see from the top-down view. Now, Jim, here we've got a before and an original and revised of the site plan. Could you take the commission through some of the major changes
Sure.
From a site perspective?
Sure. As we mentioned before, increase those setbacks greater than previous for the addition, as we're pointing to there on the right-hand side of this particular slide, as well as adjusted the width of the parking stalls, reduce them slightly so that we could increase some distance to, number one, the right-of-way line, and then number two, for the hornbeam hedge trees that are adjacent to the generator building. And in the central area along that common property line, you can see that there was obviously recall that there was a desire to try to maintain those hornbeam trees as much as possible for some visual obstruction from Harrison Street as someone may look across that apron towards 338 and maintain the separation that exists. And what we found was adjacent to that generator building, when that was constructed, several of those hornbeam trees were dug by professional diggers and moved slightly, and they've performed very well, and that was successful. Therefore, we felt confident that we could make some minor adjustments to the location of these trees, as shown there in the central portion just to the left of the ADA stall on 342, and then sort of tapering them in to the corner of the existing building on 342 to maintain that visual barrier where the AC units are. So I think that was an important point that we wanted to add to the plan and incorporate. We also did simplify the pedestrian connection from the egress door on the side of 338 coming across the driveway down to a paver walk that's 5 feet wide, that's more streamlined in terms of getting onto 342, going left to right. And then we're just highlighting, obviously, the revised addition, footprint and layout, and you can see that some of the patios have been reduced and the impervious surface and hardscaping have been reduced in this particular plan, and we're maintaining that two-way access out to Nassau Street the way it is today.
Thanks, Jim. Again, the goal was hopefully to capture the comments from HPC here, as well as the planning board. A couple other more minor items. We believe the sentiment coming out of HPC was an agreement that keeping the existing gravel parking lot was appropriate, both from a speed reduction. There was some concern at planning, but from a further engineering look, and particularly with the addition back of the trees, we're not that concerned that this is going to become some type of cut through. It is actually going to be a challenging series of turning movements to get through here that is not going to be easier than going to the corner at Harrison and Nassau, but to match the existing gravel rather than, technically it's a waiver, if not a variance, actually, to not pave the parking lot. And we prefer to keep it in its current condition. And again, as Jim said, we would be seeking variances as we received on the property next door to have smaller parking spaces than the 9 by 19 that are customary. That allows us to increase those setbacks and have a additional buffer area between the adjacent property and the right-of-way from the parking. So that's those are the highlights of the changes. We hope we've caught what the board was looking for. There is, as Ms. Kim said, if this is the right direction, we are quite close, but perhaps there's a further discussion on some of the final details on the materials that I don't know if something is appropriate for a subcommittee. If the planning board agrees that the variances in the project is appropriate, we we hope they would, but it's not a given that this would even make it that far. But ultimately, we're hopeful that the direction we're taking is indicative of the direction we got here from the board. So with that, thank you.
Well, we really appreciate you listening to us, and there are quite a few changes here I see are very positive. But I would like to open it up to board members. First, I just have one quick question. So in the historic building, there won't need to be any kind of increase in like cutting through the envelope, right? I mean, so the entrance and exit will be from that back doorway as it is?
Yes, that's currently what we have planned. The only cut.
Openings are respected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
The only cut we will have is if we do have this basement, these stairs going down to the basement, we would have to cut a hole in the foundation to get through.
That's, okay. Ulrich, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah. I was certainly the most critical when you last came. This is definitely an improvement, although what was proposed before was so awful that that's something, almost anything would be an improvement. But I appreciate the fact that a lot of scrutiny went into it. And I think that particularly when you see the elevation with the silly garage doors before, and then you see that this profile of this conference room is low enough that from the north side, the original fenestration on the second floor is revealed. I appreciate all of that. And I don't object to the fact that the hyphen between the two structures is you've made an attempt to make it lighter, to feel light. When I first looked at it, it looked as if the bathroom had floor-to-ceiling windows, but I see that that's actually just, that's an optical illusion. I am curious about what will replace the glass on the lower section there. I think the solution of the stairs going up and down is good, although when I first encountered this project, there was some provision for a lift to get between the two levels, which I don't see here unless it's that open area below the word foyer. I have a couple of thoughts, minor thoughts basically. I know you're trying to respect this hedgerow, but I honestly think both buildings would be improved by just a looser sense of landscaping. I think that seems too rigid to me and unnecessarily so. It seems like there are opportunities just to have some complementary landscaping, particularly along Harrison, but also in that sort of hatched out area, for instance, between the front and back, between the two properties. The hedge running down the middle tends to make me think both properties will feel smaller rather than more expansive if there was less attention to that. And I do very much appreciate the fact that you're dropping the notion of the very heavy-duty entrance from Nassau to the John Scott House. My greatest concern, even though we have no purview over the interior, is the fact that you still have that, you've altered the original winder staircase. That in itself looks fairly innocent, but you've got to understand that the framing for all three floors is going to be compromised by that feature. And I would just strongly advise that not happen. That, this building was offered to the Continental Congress for its delegates in 1783. Who knows who tread those stairs? And it is an important building, and what you've done now respects it far more than what you did before, but I really feel like that would be an intrusion from the cellar all the way to the attic, and it would not, if you look at the ramifications on each level, you'll see that is going to make it it's going to be very cumbersome in the cellar. It's going to be very cumbersome where the stairs go by the windows. I just think that's a big mistake. But thank you for your efforts. Enough from me.
Okay, thank you. Other comments or suggestions? And go down the line, David.
Just so I understand, because I don't like to be not understanding. In this drawing, at the back of the conference room, the wall that faces the parking lot, the windows, I'm not familiar with what that reference is with those little circles inside the building. It could be an interior detail that doesn't matter to us, but I don't know what it is.
The four circles you're seeing there?
Yeah.
Those are actually seats, chairs.
Oh.
Yeah. Those are excess chairs in the conference room for
Got it.
visitors.
Okay.
Not a water feature.
Not a water feature. You'd be surprised what we've been fooled with.
Okay, anything else? Charlotte?
I wasn't at this first meeting.
Oh. Oh, could you talk into the mic?
I'm playing catch-up a little bit because I wasn't at this first meeting, so if you could come back.
Sure. All right, Roger, did you see this? The first one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the distinction with the glassed-in conference room to distinguish from the original historic building. But will it be tonally tied into the building in terms of the coloration of the glass? I didn't catch those details.
Do you mean the link structure that connects the two?
Yeah.
The glass would match, the glass color would match what exists. It's probably clear glass. We would use clear glass probably with a low E coating for energy efficiency, but it would look the same as the existing glass utilized.
And the framing?
The framing it's all wood. It's not going to be aluminum. It's going to be wood framing. And the panels below the toilet room windows are actually a raised wood panel that would be painted. It's hard to see in the drawing, but yeah, it would be a raised detail panel.
So yeah, keep in mind, everything is not going to be the gray that we see now, the charcoal color. It's all going to be kind of a light cream with dark green.
Dark green, that's correct.
Dark green
Yes.
trim. Kind of similar to the other buildings on the corner.
Right.
So I have a question. I just
Yep.
need clarification. Is that gray going away from that building, or?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, it's going to
So
now be a
they
light
Hallelujah.
color. Yeah.
They repaint the whole thing.
Oh, good. Oh, my God.
Yeah. So go ahead. Did you have any other comments? or-
No, I love it. I love the transition between the two buildings. I think that as somebody who sits there, and that's my view, that gray building, I think is going to be such an improvement on Harrison Street. I like it a lot. You
Thank
could
you.
consider putting, and I don't know how it'll work, or if you did sun studies, like a skylight or something in a conference room, I don't know. Just something to consider.
I'm sorry, Frida, what did you say? I couldn't hear you.
Oh, I suggested a skylight in the conference room, make it brighter.
Yeah. Shirley?
I think I'm on an island by myself because we have historic districts and every little space that we have is taken up with buildings. We have 2 apartment buildings on Harrison. And I know this is going to pass, but I vote no.
Okay. Charlotte?
No, I very much like the connection between the two buildings, and Just a question about so the smaller new building is clapboard?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, just, yeah, curious why, and why not stucco, like the building on the corner is stucco, right? Yeah.
Actually, this committee suggested that it shouldn't be the same.
That,
At our last meeting, it was, the suggestion was to change the material of the addition. So it
oh,
didn't
I see,
mimic.
at the last meeting,
Yes.
from stucco
Yeah,
to
to be,
clapboard. Got it.
essentially to be, I'm paraphrasing, but essentially to have a different transition to something that was clearly meant to be a different building rather than.
I see, I see. See, this is the problem, with not being at the original meeting, but, okay, got it. No, it looks quite nice.
And I'll point out with the landscaping, that came up in the planning board, there was a lot of concern about the potential for people to cut through because the traffic on Harrison Street can back up a lot. And so people were concerned about someone on Harrison going through the parking lot and coming out on Nassau Street. And having that landscape makes it clear that that's not a road, that's not it makes it maybe not clear if it goes through or not. And I think that was a major concern. I mean, traffic is a major concern for the neighbors in this area. So at the planning board, there was a request. Also, these hedges have survived and done well, which is, a lot of times in a new planting, you'll get a lot of trees that'll die. And so because these hedges have done so well, people really were hesitant to remove them.
I didn't know that, and I appreciate that. One thing I might think about that one area, which was Hatch, if you put something else in front of it, that solid green could work with something flowering this time of year, for instance, in front of it, so that it feels lighter and less rigid.
Mm-hmm.
But as a backdrop, and I mean, the traffic issue is, I see it happening all the time when people do cut through parking lots.
Right, but that's a good point, is maybe a flowering tree or something.
I think that's an excellent point, and it was pretty binary. It went from they weren't there at all to they're back, as a way to try to save them. Ultimately, I suspect that we'll probably be back before a subcommittee for landscaping, perhaps a review later on, and we'll keep those notes and see what the best solution is. But that's a good comment, and appreciate your recollection, Madam Chair, about at least the perceived impact of splitting up the lots to make it not appeal visually like a place that someone should turn off Harrison to sneak onto. Again, we're not that concerned with it because there's a lot of turning movements and it's gravel and there are a lot of reasons that you're not really saving much time there, but each of those elements adds to keeping people from doing that. So, thank you.
Right, yeah. Okay, yeah, Elizabeth.
Sorry, so I just want to add for that Hawthorne, when they were proposed, one of the conditions was that the height had to stay at 8 feet. So obviously it has not been maintained, but one of the other reasons was that it was it was helping to screen the addition on the adjacent building, which if it's removed, or as Mr. Kennedy had in his slideshow, you could see that it's pretty visible when it's wintertime. So I think that the height can be maintained because these horn beams are known to be hedges, so they have been sheared down. So if for some reason people feel that it's too tall, it could be sheared down to the 8 feet that was part of the requirement. The other thing is, I guess I'm looking at the drawing and I'm just wondering, maybe it's just a drawing error, but it seems like the horn beams that are adjacent to that that transformer building, whatever, the generator building, are moving, or is that just a superimposed thing that shouldn't be like that?
They've already been moved. They have
Was it
already
because
been
of-
moved.
Was it because of the
The
generator?
That's why I
Okay.
say they were shifted, so we're just reflecting that those are already moved, and then we would make adjustments for the other two areas closer to Nassau Street.
Okay, and so so I see that you're relocating the other ones. You have the ADA loading area. Was that there before? I mean, it seems pretty wide. Did it get wider?
It did not get wider. We
It
need
just
16 feet.
slid down a little bit more? Maybe not?
No, it was always open, but
Mhm.
what we did was we extended the landscape strip between the existing curb on 338 and that ADA loading area, where before it was all pavement and that curb was to be removed. So
Right.
now we basically have an island there, and we're going to relocate those trees into that island. But we do need it that wide for the 16 feet for ADA accessibility.
Okay. And then where the planting starts to veer back into the corner lot towards the AC units, I would probably just recommend keeping it on the same property. I'm not really
Yeah,
sure.
the only issue with that is that we do have underground drainage piping there.
Oh, so it's in the way?
So it's in the way, so just as that piping kind of goes on an angle, it really is best to
Keep the roots
to
away
tie
from
it
it.
in. So just from a practical standpoint, that'll be difficult to do.
Okay. Another question I have, and I thought that maybe Elric was going to address this, but when you put the staircase to the basement, how does that affect the wall? Because I know that the construction of that exterior wall was a big concern. It's, you know, once you open it up, you don't know what's going to happen to it.
Well,
Is
we have
it necessary to have that basement staircase there?
Our client would like that because it's, first of all, it's difficult to get to the basement either from the Bilco. Actually, from within the building, you're able to remove part of the floor and move and go down these very steep stairs. But it's pretty treacherous to get down to the basement either of those ways. So he's trying to make a simpler, more safe way to get to the basement.
Okay, I think that I'll probably...
It was safer before it got changed recently, but anyway, I take your point.
Yeah.
And it's just the opening for, it's a new door, it's not, I mean, before it was a 10-foot wide space that had been removed.
Yeah,
which
this
was
is just,
nice, which
this would
was
just
not
be
a good notion.
This would just be an opening, and we'd have to have a structural engineer look at it and advise us and all of that.
The significance, too, is that the kitchen in this case, as opposed to one across the road, was in the cellar.
Yes.
And before, I mean, eventually the wing that was moved became the kitchen, but that's one of the original features and significant. So I still can't find the date on it, but I know it's there somewhere. I've had it pointed out to me 50 years ago.
So I have a question about your hyphen. You have the two heights, so if I'm looking at the floor plan, is the higher height the area that goes across the stair system in the back? Is that where the height, it's compensated for that?
The whole foyer is at grade level?
Right, no, I understand, right, but
Oh, the
you
ceiling
have
height.
two levels of the flat roof, so
That's
there's
why
a
I
higher
sort of
level?
hope that disappears. I mean, there's a heaviness at the top that
Well, it's because the house, the main floor of the house is up about 3 feet.
Right.
So that roof brings it across, so when you come out of the main house, then start stepping down. If we didn't have that, there wouldn't be enough headroom.
Okay, no, that's what I thought, because I saw a dashed line on there. I just wanted to understand that
Oh,
relates
right,
to
that's
that.
that's the higher portion, correct.
Okay, and the other thing is that I guess I'm interested because of certain details. I mean, I really do like the transparency, but I don't know what those panels are like. You know, I mean, I'd love to be able to see what that is and how that they would be able to be compatible with each other.
And where's the door? It's hard.
It's on the side
is it-
here.
That's it?
Yeah, so here's the parking. So it's by the residential unit back
I
here.
meant the door from Harrison Street.
There
Is there no door?
There is none.
Okay.
No more. And then the other thing is, I'm just thinking that the hyphen is getting kind of large, and I'm wondering the connection to that with the new conference room, just from the view from the street, is a little bit awkward. And I'm just wondering that bathroom, are you able to perhaps flip it and put it next to where the staircase is? And then that way you could actually have a connection that meets at that corner.
There
Just a
there wasn't
consideration.
enough, we looked at several options, there just wasn't enough space there to get a barrier-free toilet room. So that's why it is where it is right now.
Okay, all right.
Plus, we were trying to get the toilet room door like a little bit out of the way, so you're not looking right into the toilet when you enter the building.
Understood. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. If there are no other comments, I want to open it up to the public. So come on up, Clifford.
Oh, no.
Thank you, Julie. Should I swear in?
Oh, yeah.
There we go. If you would raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth to the best of your knowledge?
I do.
Thank you. And please state your name for the record.
Clifford Zink, Z-I-N-K, on Aiken Avenue in Jugtown. So several board members have congratulated the applicant, and I agree. I'd like to reinforce that the applicant has made significant changes, which result in a much improved project. I don't need to go through them all because they've already been discussed. Preserving the rear stone wall is particularly significant in avoiding that very wide opening that's been discussed. When you do cut the cellar door opening through there, that stone wall is probably 18 inches thick, and it's rubble stone, probably from the quarry down the street, almost certainly. And so it's going to be a very delicate operation to cut that through carefully and not cause any damage. Elric has brought up the interior, which is not part of HPC, but, and I realize the existing stair is pretty suboptimal. But to Elric's point, all 3 floors are framed. If we were to open up those floors, well, you've been in the basement, they're all probably hand-hewn beams. And so you're going to be cutting a lot of beams through all those floors. That's going to be a big disruption. It's going to destroy a lot of original material on the inside.
You're
So,
not carry them. I mean,
yeah, so if there's a way to mitigate that, it might be worth looking at. I assume the final application will have a preservation area designated on the site plan, which I don't believe it has right now.
It will, and we had proposed one on the plans when we were here last time, essentially that covered the entirety of the front building, just kind of carving off the new addition.
So I appreciate Elizabeth's concern about the hyphen. The fact that the powder room is now projecting quite out towards Harrison Street makes the hyphen extremely prominent. I would recommend perhaps revisiting the exterior design of the hyphen, because I think it's kind of busy the way it's designed. It has a lot of panels. I think it could be designed in a way that could be more compatible with the historic building. Certainly not to replicate the historic building in any way, but to be a little more compatible so it doesn't draw so much attention to itself. It seems very busy. Elizabeth brought up the panels, what they're going to look like. I don't object to the fact that a lot of the exterior is glass, but I think the way it's designed is kind of makes it too prominent on the site, and I think it could be simplified a bit. I think lowering the height of the conference room is really a great benefit, and pulling it back from the street is enormous because of the pedestrian issues there. So I think overall, the applicant has done a great job, and the architect listening to a lot of concerns here. I would just recommend maybe taking a look at the design of the facade. Maybe it could be simplified a little bit, a little more compatible. It's modern is perfectly fine, but I think the way it's designed with all those rectangles kind of draws attention to itself. And the existing building is extremely simple. It's a very vernacular design, and the way you've designed the conference room is also extremely simple. So I think you could take a look at that. That would be my recommendation. But otherwise, thank you very much, and thank you to everybody on HPC and Elizabeth for really working hard to make this a really great addition to the town. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Clifford. All right, are there other questions, comments? Yes, Tara.
I just had a question about procedure, because I know this was in Elizabeth's review letter. Is this the application that's going to garner a decision, or are we looking at this more like a concept and they're going to come back with that additional information that Elizabeth wanted, or is the intent to give a conditional approval and they come back to a subcommittee?
I'll say what our hope would be, since ultimately this board's decision is advisory to the planning board, and we would still be going back there, is that if we could get comments or something approaching a conditional approval that would allow us to come back perhaps to a subcommittee on the materials question, for example, again, whether it's this subcommittee or if the planning board takes on with their landscape subcommittee, for example. But there still are some questions to be answered there. Who's it? Whether it's honestly this board's or planning's. I don't think I'll get to win in helping to make that choice. But that would be our preference, because we still do. We would like to take this and finalize the engineering and get back to planning would be our goal. And I didn't hear other than and I don't mean to overstate the details of materials, but on the big things, I think I did hear that I've gotten quite close to what the board was looking for.
Yeah, Elizabeth.
So there are some details that I think that the HBC would like to look at. I think that landscape is a big detail. I think that there's a lot of planting that goes on that even is existing on the property that HPC members might consider actually not appropriate, and they would probably want that not to be mimicked with this. So I think that for HPC's benefits, some details like that they would like to look at. However, if you go to the planning board will most likely defer to a landscape subcommittee, which would not include HPC. So I guess that is a dilemma.
Right. I mean, I think if we, so maybe we could have a subcommittee look at the application before it goes to planning board?
So that the subcommittee meet before, that would certainly, I think I think we could do that. That would make sense to us. And also, we're also thinking, I don't know if this suggestion hopefully would be honored, but perhaps that when the landscape subcommittee is created by the planning board, that it could include a member or two of HPC as well.
Yeah. Well, I'm already on it, so yeah, that's not a problem. But I definitely think to work out some of the details with HPC earlier is a better idea, and having it worked out before you get to the planning board, since I think, they defer back to us, so it would just make it more straightforward.
No, that makes sense. And the items certainly that maybe we could just go through what type of things. Would you be looking to see the landscape plan at the subcommittee level before, or, okay.
Yeah. So the question I have is for our attorney. Typically, HPC presents a memo. How does the subcommittee comments get incorporated into that? Because they would want to have the complete review.
Right, I think it's going to depend on, do you know what your timeline is for getting to the planning board?
it's subject to a further submission. So that essentially is on pause pending this board's advice,
So-
essentially. So we have lots of we'd like it to be soon, but it's nothing pending. They're waiting for this process. Well, I mean, not waiting for it, but nothing's been scheduled at this point.
Okay, so what we could do is provide them with a conditional approval subject to a subcommittee review within 30 days, would that?
Yeah,
And then
would that work?
the final memo won't go to the planning board until that subcommittee has met.
And then,
It doesn't sound like it's the traditional way you guys do it,
Well,
but this is,
I'll say that we would be, maybe not happy to, wait's not the right word, but we would imagine that we would provide this additional submission in detail for the subcommittee. I don't know that from our timing, we need a memo to get to planning before that point, that we'd be happy to wait till the subcommittee has seen everything before a pen is
I mean, if-
inked to paper.
I hate to say it, then if time is, if we're not worried about timing, if you're not looking to go to the planning board in 2 or 3 weeks, what's to prevent us from just reconvening, carrying the application so that they don't have to renotice, carrying the application to the next meeting where you can present that, instead of presenting it to the subcommittee, present it to the full HPC. I was just thinking maybe you were already on the planning board's agenda. And I
We're
didn't want
not,
to
and we
delay
also
that.
didn't, this is not a type of meeting that needed notice either, so that's,
is that something that the applicant would be willing to do, to come back? Perhaps, I mean, I'm not sure what your timeline is, where you feel that the plans would be complete.
I guess we were hoping to submit this part of things and the engineering detailed so that planning could start reviewing it simultaneously. So that would probably be, we'd like to be working on those both at the same time. So if we were submitting, coming back, and then waiting for comments for another submission, that would probably be adverse to what, the timing that we'd be hoping for.
Because I
see.
guess HPC's next
So-
meeting is May.
May
Because obviously
19th.
we're early now.
Right, so maybe we should go back to the 30 days. I mean, maybe that, instead of waiting till the next meeting, we have the subcommittee meet within the next few weeks, or to just sort of,
Because the way that my report is, it doesn't have anything in there. What do you think your timing is to get the plans fully designed? I mean, I don't even actually know how many variances have been eliminated or been modified either.
We were thinking basically like on a 3 to 4 week time period, something like that, to finish up the engineering for the landscaping, the lighting, and the rest of the material. So that puts us in the beginning of May that we could submit, where we sort of planned on finalizing the package pending positive input tonight.
I know that at the planning board meeting, they said that they don't need another completeness review. However, they will be reviewing your documents, right? So
That's right.
if for some reason they feel it's lacking information or they need some clarification, kind of like an informal completeness, is that correct? I mean,
it is complete, but you're right. If we submitted information and they needed more, they would essentially treat it as if it was not. It wouldn't have an effect on the MLUL, but they would review it for a completeness-like submission.
I think just for it to be clean, and it doesn't seem like it would be that much. So if you're saying it's a month, so it might be another 2 weeks that you wait to get on HPC, and you could kind of finalize any type of additional information that maybe planning or zoning might be looking for. And I think that those incomplete items on their end, HPC could probably look beyond that, because they're looking for, yes, knowing what those are, but more, they're all about detail, HPC, material, color, texture, plantings, lighting.
Right. I guess the concern I have is we'd be waiting to get that material to your subcommittee to complete engineering site plan submission. But my hope, and ultimately, if we're doing one submission, we're here in May, then that's the board's purview, I suppose. It seemed to me that we would be submitting a subset, particularly of architectural details for the subcommittee that would not take as long to put together as our full planning resubmission. So if we were to do the full submission, we'd be here in May, we'd get your feedback after that, and then we'd be, waiting a month or two for planning, I suppose. But again, we probably talked enough about it to ultimately. So I don't say either one is. It's the board's decision. I think our preference would be if we could do a subcommittee in a shorter time frame. We think it's a more limited subset of things you'd be looking at rather than waiting for the entire full resubmission. But it's the board's choice.
I mean, I think we could do that. We could do a subcommittee meeting in the next 3 weeks or month. And then we would be only focusing on the issues we brought up that we have questions about, and we wouldn't have to, assemble everybody again.
That would be good, yeah, within the next 30
Okay.
days.
We'll be seeing a lot of each other in the next month.
Yeah, we're gonna see a lot of you, Elric.
Okay, if that's where the board is heading, there then are 3 things I want to put on the record. One is I and the Historic Preservation Officer, we reviewed the notice and it was sufficient to give the board jurisdiction. 2, we should mark the presentation that was given as Exhibit A1. All of those slides, just mark that for the record.
Thank you.
And 3, we should also acknowledge for the record that for the purposes of deeming an application complete, the board is, I guess, temporarily waiving the submission of product specifications and the delineated historic preservation area on the mapping, and that will be deferred to a subcommittee. Because in the HPC ordinances, it does say, although there's not a formal completeness checklist, there is a provision that says the application shall contain at least these items. And those were 2 items that weren't in this application.
Understood. And we'll also represent that on the revised plans, the the designated area will match what we had put on our prior, more complete plans.
So let me just clarify. You're saying within a month that the drawings should be finalized and all the product information will be available. You'd like to see if the subcommittee could review that as you submit it to the planning office.
Correct.
As they look through it themselves to see if there's anything deficient before they schedule you on the planning board, correct?
That is correct, yeah.
All right, and who's on the subcommittee? Elric. I guess I should be because I'm gonna see it on the planning board. And then we need one more person, right?
Right.
Okay, anyone volunteering? Okay, David? All right,
And that subcommittee will meet, the plans will be submitted in about, how long?
1 month, they said? That'll-
Plans will be submitted in 30 days or less?
Oh, certainly, yes.
Okay. And then, do you want to say the subcommittee will meet within 1 week of receiving those plans?
that seems reasonable.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And then once I get comments from them, Elizabeth and I will issue a memo as soon as possible.
Great, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, everyone, thank you. Really appreciate you guys coming back.
Oh, and I just wanted to go over, the subcommittee is going to review a landscaping plan, a lighting plan, product specifications.
Yeah.
And the delineation of the historic district added to the plan. Is there anything else that they're going to be reviewing?
I think any adjustments that are made, let's say for the, like, ceiling heights and that kind of thing. I don't think so.
This is one, I'm sorry, I keep saying approval. It's issuance of a memo.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you. Thanks, everybody. So we have 2 resolutions to get through. And let's see, Princeton Nursery School is the first one. Did everybody get a chance to look at it? Elizabeth, did you have any changes to the resolutions?
Not for the Princeton Nursery School, but I got a comment for 7 Green by the applicant, a clarification on something. So this one,
okay.
nothing on this.
So the first resolution, the application of Princeton Nursery School, I think everybody remembers that. Is there a motion to approve the resolution? Okay, thanks, Roger. Is there a second? Thank you, Frida. Do we have to have a vote? Elizabeth, do we have to have a vote for the resolution? I think a board vote. Okay.
Okay, hold on, I gotta find my list. I'll just go down the line.
Yeah.
Mr. Shatskin? Yes. Ms. Satterfield? Yes. Ms. Howard?
Yes.
Chairperson Capizzoli?
Yes.
Ms. Friedman? Yes. Mr. Shore? Yes. Mr. Endersby?
Yes. Okay.
Oh,
yeah,
never mind.
sorry. Never mind. Okay, thanks. All right, now we have the application of 7 Green Street, the resolution for that application. And Elizabeth, what were your changes?
So Annabelle said that they weren't 1/1 windows, they're 2/2. So that could be an easy correction. But otherwise, no other comments.
They're 2/2.
Mm-hmm. That's what you said.
Okay, that's right. Okay, so with that change, is there a motion to approve the resolution for 7 Green Street?
So moved.
Okay, thanks, Frida. Seconded by Shirley. Okay.
Mr. Shatskin? Yes. Ms. Satterfield? Yes. Ms. Howard?
Yes.
Ms. Friedman? Yes. Mr. Shore? Oh,
yes.
Thank you. Chairperson Capizzoli?
Yes. Thank you. All right. Thank you so much. I think you're free. Thank you. We have public comment. Would anyone like to comment on anything? We're open. Okay, go ahead. Just say hi. Just say hi. All right. Elizabeth, did you want to say anything for staff reports?
I didn't have anything on staff reports at all, but I was interested because I know that Roger went to one of those conferences, but he's not listening.
Oh, right, yeah, Roger went to a conference, but
and I think that
he walked away.
I think the Historic Trust Conference is coming up, right? The annual one? I don't
Yeah,
know
in
what the dates.
June. In
Yeah.
June in Burlington.
Right, so everyone
Burlington.
keep their eyes open for that.
Right. Okay, I guess that's it. Is there a motion to
adjourn?
I think so. Motion to adjourn. Okay, all in favor? Thank you. Thank you. Thanks so much for coming.